Okay, so now we're going to prepare the bag for attaching the straps and finishing the top. So at this stage you should have popped your pocket on, done your stitch around the outside with your right sides facing to join it together, and you should have overlocked that edge as well. Now to do the straps you'll need to cut 1 meter of black strapping and cut it in half so you have two 50cm lengths. Now what we're going to do is we're going to turn our bag inside out, and you should be removing any pins you have in your work at this stage. So you can see I've got some pins from when I put my pocket together, so I can take these out now. Now you should also at the top of your bag have that line that you drew at the start. Oops, it's not quite lined up here, but you can just, when you iron it over, just estimate in between those two lines. So that's what I'm going to do now. Oops. Probably trim these threads as well. So now would be a good time to trim your loose threads as well. Pop those in the bin and have your iron on, set to cotton with water and the steam function turned on. So opening up your bag, you're going to fold up at that line. Okay, so remember I said these two didn't quite meet, so you can just estimate in between. What you're going to do is you're going to iron that edge. So you move your bag around, fold it up at that 3cm line and iron. And you keep going until you get to where you started. And looks like I've got one little bit left. So just like before, you're going to fold that edge in and keep going. There actually is a slightly easier way we can do this, utilizing the end of the ironing board. So I've ironed it over at the 3cm line. I'm going to turn it back inside out so I can then put my bag over the end of the iron. Oops. That way I can fold that under and continue to iron the top of my bag. See, I can fold it under and iron. Fold it under, make sure it's even, and iron. And last little bit. Fold it under and iron. Okay, so I've got the top of my bag ironed and prepared. Let's just fold that back under. Now what I need to do is I need to mark where the straps are gonna go. But before I do that, I want to just put a few pins in here to make sure I don't lose that nicely ironed edge. So I'm putting one in the middle, one on each side where the seams meet, and then I'm going to put another one in the middle here. So when we mark our straps, I'm going to open it up so I can see my side seam, because I'm going to measure out from that side seam for my straps. So I want to measure out and mark 7 centimeters. Okay, so from the side seam out, I'm marking, here's the 7, and there's 0. I mark for where the straps are going to go. Then I can flip it and do the same on this side. So I've got my side seam here, that nice bright pinky orange thread. So I can put my 0 on there and mark my 7. Okay, so now we're going to sew our top and insert our straps as we go. Okay, so now that I'm back at my machine, I'm going to remove that section so I can loop my bag around the arm of the machine. Now I'm going to stitch this together, or I shouldn't say together, I'm going to stitch it down, just like I did with the top of the pocket. So I'm going to line up my foot in the same spot, but as we go along, we're actually going to insert our straps. Okay, so you're actually doing a lot all at the same time for this step. So what we're going to do is we'll start at our side seam. You have to start there to get your straps correct. And we're not going to start with a reverse because we're doing a full circle. We'll do the reverse when we get back there. So I'm going to sew up to my mark here and stop. And then I'm going to insert one end of my strap. Now my strap is going to go up into the fold and it's going to line up with the mark. You can see the edge of the strap is lining up with the mark there. And I'm going to just hold it in place and stitch along there. Now I need to take my pins out as I go. And I pinch this together here to hold it nice and flat and pull it to get a nice flat finish. Now with this strap, it's going to get attached here, the other end. So when I do that, I need to make sure that there are no twists. Can you see that if I hold that out? There are no twists in that strap. So that's really important. We don't want our strap twisted once we put it on. Now, just like before, so I've just gone through, making sure there are no twists. We're going to insert our strap and line it up with the edge of that mark. Sorry, the edge of the strap of that mark. So we're basically doing the opposite of what we just did. Here, the edge closest to the seam lined up with the mark. So it's the same here. We've got the seam here. The edge closest to the seam is going to line up with that mark. Pop it in place and you can stitch it together. Okay, so I can take my pin out, pop it in my pin cushion, keep going. Alright, so I'm up to my next mark. This is my third mark, and this is for the second strap. So again, the edge closest to the seam is lined up against the strap, the mark here. Alright, so it goes in like that. And then we stitch that in place, stopping to take the pins out. Holding that all together and pulling it nice and tight. Just continue until I get to my last mark, which is this one here. So again, making sure there's no twists. The edge of my strap that is closest to the seam is lined up against the mark. Okay, here. Just left enough room for that one. Take my last pin out. And then I'm going to join my stitch line where I started and do a reverse stitch. And you're probably wondering why I put the straps in that way. Because they're actually pointing downwards. That's the top of my bag. The reason I did that is because we're going to turn it up and give this strap a reinforcing stitch. Okay, so we've got one stitch line here which is holding it in place, and we're going to do another one. I can just feel there's a little bit of glue on that because the ends were burnt off. I wonder if the machine's going to like it. So what I've done is I've folded it out. Actually, let's find one here. This one doesn't have a glued end. So what I've done is I've folded it out like that. And I've pulled it so it's nice and flat. And I'm going to stitch along the top here. And I'm going to do a square with a triangle finish for extra strength. So we stitch along the top and we're going to turn our corners. So this is going to give us a really well reinforced strap. I'm back to where I started. I just need to move that a little bit so I get this stitch lines to match up. And I'm going to do a little reverse there and go back to that corner. And then I'm actually going to do a diagonal stitch to do our triangle to reinforce that pocket. Now if you wanted to, you could draw this on your bag and then sew it. If you don't feel confident in following the video and following what I'm doing and you just want that extra guideline, that's fine. So I've done my second diagonal stitch and then I'm going to finish with another reverse stitch on the side there. So there you have a reinforced strap. So once you've finished that on all four, you've finished the tote bag. So once you finish, go around, trim all your loose threads, give it an iron, but don't iron these because they're synthetic, they will melt, and then you can hand it up for marking.